Celebrating 46 years on the air, award-winning Farmweek is a production of Mississippi State University Extension.
Today on Farm Week, Mississippi State University takes the lead with the opening of the nation's first ever Autonomy Institute. Plus, these kids are chunkin pumpkins and learning a whole lot in the process. In Southern Gardening, lantanas are the name of the game. We're talking luscious. And in our feature, we announce the 2023 Tree Farmers of the Year. Farm Week starts right now.
Hello everyone, I'm Zach Ashmore.
And I'm Mike Russell. Great to have you with us again here on Farm Week. You don't have to be a farmer to know that autonomous ag equipment, the kind that handles by itself dull, dirty, and dangerous work for humans, will ultimately revolutionize productivity. That concept wasn't lost on the folks at Mississippi State University, who recently opened the nation's first and only academic institute exclusively dedicated to advancing ag autonomy. It is a huge first mover advantage. It was all hands on deck just days ago, the grand opening of AAI at Mississippi State, the Agricultural Autonomy Institute. Founding director Alex Thomason jokingly spoke of it as Skunk Works, an affectionate reference to breakthrough work done at aerospace giant Lockheed Martin. Of course, autonomous equipment isn't a new concept. The basic idea of advanced mechanization goes back decades, long before the internet, wireless technology, and GPS. On the other hand, self-driving tractors are just the beginning of the revolution. At Mississippi State's lab, researchers and students will build and test various air-based, ground-based, and even water-based vehicles. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. The motivation for MSU's new institute comes from three sources. One, the realization that within 30 years we'll have 2 billion more mouths to feed on the planet. Two, the fact that U.S. farm workers are getting older, on average 1 year older every 4 years that go by. And three, because of urbanization, labor is getting harder and harder to find. Ultimately, says Thomason, the goal of the institute is economic development. He says he hopes to see Mississippi become the Silicon Valley of agricultural autonomy, and says solving the labor question with increased productivity is key.
Productivity is going to be, I think, driven partly by the precision that we're able to bring into our operations. And you think of the term precision agriculture. Precision agriculture has been around about 25 years. Autonomy is an enabler of precision, if you will. So when we put autonomous machines out there, they have a much better opportunity to look at individual plants and decide what we can do to apply to this individual plant or this individual 1 meter by 1 meter square area to make these plants grow better. We don't want to put fertilizer where we don't need it, but we do want to put it where we do need it. So in terms of enabling precision, autonomy is going to improve our productivity.
The new institute, which is already getting positive attention from Mississippi lawmakers and business people, will be overseen by MSU's Office of Research and Economic Development and by its Division of Agriculture, Forestry, and Veterinary Medicine. The scope of the Institute's research is expected to be broad, just like agriculture itself. Obviously, its work in this area will be unique. We will follow the Autonomy Institute's development and bring you updated reports from time to time.
This recent Halloween season, Tennessee 4-H'ers were finding ways to discover our world by studying how far a pumpkin can fly, with human help. There's science to be learned as the fruit is in flight. Charles Denny has more on the fun, physics, and lessons of pumpkin chunkin.
Ready, aim, chunk. Whoa! The great pumpkin and his kin take flight at the Clyde York 4-H Center in Crossville. Just how far can he fly? Combining air travel and the tumble forward some 200 feet, depending on whether the spirit of Halloween has been dieting lately.
I can't wait to see them bust whenever they hit the ground.
Yeah. Pumpkin chunkin, as it's known, where 4-Hers take this slingshot of a catapult and hurl seasonal spheres forward.
Well, I like to build things and I like to see how far I can throw something. So I think those two just go together.
A blast of a science lesson for these 4-Hers. They learn the mechanics, math, and physics of chunkin, measuring how far their fruit can fly and what's needed to create flight.
We kind of break down what your basic average tools are, levers and things like that, and we move on to our force of motion and gravity and how a bigger object's going to need more force to move forward.
This experiment is part of the STEM curriculum here at the York Center. STEM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. That's been a big focus for 4-H in recent years, preparing kids for possible future careers.
You know, when we talk about even just pumpkin chunkin, we'll take that for example. You know, we're talking about engineering and what does an engineer do? You know, and the different kinds of engineers that you can be.
The York STEM curriculum is called REAL, Redefining Environmental Education for Life. Before heading out to the chunkin range, the kids build mini catapults, pieced together with rubber bands and pencils. They practice first with marshmallows, which preps them for the larger objects they'll fly later.
And you stack up, see how your best leverage happens, see where you get the most resistance, more force.
If you happen to see the great pumpkin flying overhead this Halloween, know that he may have had some help from a Tennessee 4-Her, learning that can't be grounded, orange and airborne. This is Charles Denny reporting.
In our Southern Gardening segment this week, chances are you've heard of lantana. There are about 150 varieties of them. They do well here in Mississippi, and they come in just about every color. Here's Dr. Eddie Smith with what makes the perennial lantana so luscious.
Today, Southern Gardening is at the Truck Crops Branch Experiment Station in Crystal Springs, Mississippi, checking out some luscious lantanas. The Luscious Lantana series is known for their striking, brightly colored flower clusters that cover dark green foliage and their easy maintenance requirements. They are fast-growing and can reach up to 3 feet high, spreading up to 4 feet wide. Blooming throughout the summer and fall, these plants attract pollinators such as bees, butterflies, and hummingbirds to the landscape. Luscious Marmalade is one of the most popular varieties of the series, known for its gorgeous dark orange and yellow blooms that resemble an evening sunset. Luscious Royal Lemon Tart Lantana is another stunning variety that features bright yellow blooms that resemble a lemon tart. Luscious Basket Tangelo Lantana is a beautiful variety that boasts bright and cheerful orange and yellow blooms. Lastly, Luscious Royal Red Zone Lantana is a magnificent variety of lantana with striking red and yellow blooms. All of these plants are certified sterile, so they will spend their energy on producing gorgeous flowers all season long. With their striking blooms and ability to thrive in a variety of conditions, Luscious Lantanas are a beautiful and versatile addition to any landscape. I'm Eddie Smith, and I will see you next time on Southern Gardening.
We'll take a short break right here, but stick around. Coming up on our Farm Week feature, we announce this year's Tree Farmers of the Year. They're a husband and wife team owners of 300 acres, a quarter century of grooming this forested land full of prized hardwoods and pines. He's a numbers man, she's an artist, but together they poured their hearts and souls into their beloved tree farm, helped by a team of solid forestry professionals. Meet this year's Tree Farmers of the Year. That's coming up on Farm Week. Don't go away.
I believe in people and their hopes, their aspirations and their faith. I believe in my own work and in the opportunity I have to make my life useful to humanity. I believe that education is a lifelong process, and the greatest university is the home. That my success as a teacher is proportional to those qualities of mind and spirit that give me welcome entrance to the homes of the families that I serve. Because I believe these things, I am an extension professional.
I believe in people and their hopes, their aspirations and their faith. I believe that education, of which extension work is an essential part, is basic in stimulating individual initiative, self-determination, and leadership. I believe that these are the keys to democracy, and that people, when given facts they understand, will act not only in their self-interest, but also in the interest of society. I believe in intellectual freedom to search for and present the truth without bias and with courteous tolerance towards the views of others. Because I believe these things, I am an extension professional.
Time for the market report. Prices slightly up and some pretty big moves.
Which leads us to the question, why? International conflicts, weather? We'll get into it. But first, the numbers. We take a look at last week's biggest gains and losses. And then in our row report, we see what's moving the grain markets. And finally, an expanded look at the cattle markets. What's on the horizon and what should a rancher do? So, markets closed last week slightly up, as we've said, and it's pretty evenly split between row crops and livestock as well. Let's take a look. Last week's biggest gain, lean hogs, up nearly 4.5 cents, an almost 7% increase from the previous week. Looks like the hog markets bottomed out and are in rebound for now. Last week's biggest loss, corn, down 14.75 cents. That's a near 3% decrease from the previous week, and we'll get into the reasons why right now. So, what's with row crop prices these days? The past month, they've been growing and shrinking bit by bit. Is it the weather, global conflict, stocks, or a combination of all three? Market analysts Sean O'Leary and Ross Baldwin break it down for us and explain what's causing these changes.
You know, I think that wheat complex, price-wise, kind of has a $5 corn problem, you might say. You know, Chicago just can't seem to get above $6 and stay there. And, you know, that Kansas City contract isn't any help for any of it. We saw a decent rally in I wouldn't say it was a decent rally in the wheat, but it was a rally. Kind of hard to find one, period. But you look at the corn market as well, you know, trades above $5 for what seems like 10 minutes and then, you know, just fades.
I think corn's at a good value down here. I think futures, as Sean alluded to, I don't think we're really going anywhere in a hurry. But when you look at these corn futures around 480, if you can get your hands on it, which it's hard at this point in the harvest, the farmers are putting it in the bins and locking the doors. But if you can get your hands on it, I think it's a good value. When you think about $5 corn, just say, it works. Your cost of gain works with $5 corn here.
Sure.
And I think the biggest thing that corn would have, say, a month or two down the road from now is basis improvement that cattle feeders and users need to be thinking about with corn.
Moving on to cattle, we continue our talk with MSU livestock economist Josh Maples, considering the livestock situation both in Mississippi and beyond. And he gave us an interesting look into the likely future of cattle prices and also gives some advice to the farmer wondering what to do.
There's a lot of continued support for stronger cattle prices. I mean, projections are for stronger cattle prices in 2024 than we currently have in 2023. The supply side of this dynamic is going to remain supportive for strong cattle prices at least into next year. I mean, we probably, hopefully a little bit beyond that, because again, we're not looking at more calves hitting the ground next year. I mean, at this point, we've pretty much set the stage for a smaller cow herd and a smaller calf crop in 2024. That's going to remain supportive for stronger cattle prices through 2024. The demand side is a question mark. I mean, it always is, but you know, we do have some kind of broader macroeconomic concerns, and those certainly can spill over into beef demand. But beef production this year, we're going to be down about 5% from where we were a year ago. Next year, beef production is going to be lower because we're producing fewer cattle. Beef demand has been strong. It has remained strong. So I'm still very optimistic, very bullish on where cattle prices are going. If for no other reason, it's because I don't think prices have gotten to the point yet to offset some of these production cost concerns that producers have, to really lead them to start expanding, similar to like we saw in 2014. We're not at that expansion period yet.
So if I'm a cattle producer, what advice would you give me?
Manage input costs is the biggest one. That's always my piece of advice, is manage your input costs. That's hard right now just because of feedstuff availability. You know, typically you're wanting to get as much out of the grass that you have on your farm as possible. Given the really dry conditions that we've had, that's been difficult to do. So really focus on input cost, even though revenues are higher. I mean, cattle revenues this year have been much higher because of the stronger prices, but we've still got to pay attention to the money that's going out the door on the cost side. I'm going to offer one more thing here, and that's to think about risk management in this environment. You know, a lot of times when we see stronger cattle prices, maybe we don't pay quite as much attention to risk management because you hear people saying, hey, cattle prices are good, we're expecting them to stay good. But to me, this is an environment where you can really think about locking in some prices out into the future using various tools, whether it's futures and options or an LRP, livestock risk protection. These tools can really help offload some of that risk at some really attractive prices. You know, we've got some great risk management, or we've got some high prices out into the future that producers can take advantage of relatively inexpensively just because of the expectations that are out there right now.
And that's it for a deeper look into the markets. Mike?
Thanks, Zach. Now, as promised, time to announce the 2023 Tree Farmers, plural, of the year. They are a very special husband and wife, different from each other in a lot of ways, yet similar in the most important ways. Zach and I were treated to a tour of their beautiful tree farm recently, an example of what makes Mississippi so gorgeous. Here's Zach's story about Jesse and Penny Purvis.
I've been involved in it one way or another my whole life.
That pretty much sums up the professional life of Jesse Purvis. One way or another, every job he's worked, every customer he's served, everything he's learned directly or indirectly has helped him become the tree farmer he is today. With Penny, his wife of 45 years, by his side, together they lovingly care for each other and their 300-acre tree farm in Rankin County, Mississippi. It's as much a peaceful getaway as it is a revenue producer, made all the more peaceful and profitable by their combined discipline and attention to detail.
I enjoy being in the woods, hunting, fishing, all that kind of stuff to go with it. But at the same time, long-term plan was to try to have something that would also add to our retirement income. So the timber piece of it would do that. And especially as I acquired these properties and started planning, I got involved with having a consulting forester. And we did things, either clearing and planting or control burns or sprays or whatever. Tried to enhance the wildlife, but also make sure it produced some future income for us.
I am so proud of it. And I think I'm more proud of it because I'm so proud of what Jesse has done to piece it all together with a number of acquisitions to come to this acreage that we have. So proud that he built the cabin, because you come out here and it's quiet, but then at night you can hear the coyotes sometimes, or you can hear the owls hooting, and you'd hear the frogs, and you'd hear the birds singing, and you'd get out and walk and the rabbits would be scampering. And so it's just my place to come and just kind of regroup a little bit.
The place, as they call it, is their well-groomed pride and joy, the result of their 2 decades of hard work and relationship building. It's also the result of Jesse's continuous learning. A graduate of Mississippi State in ag economics, he lit the fuse on his career 35 years ago when he took his college diploma one day and started as a loan officer at Federal Land Bank the next.
Roughly half of our portfolio was timberland. Some of it was multi-thousand acre tracts, some of it was 20, 30 acre tracts. Had full-time farmers, part-time farmers, business people that owned little land, places like this out in the country. So we had a lot of timber involved in what we did. The land bank trained all of us to do some timber evaluation and recognize a lot of the difference. Say, you know, some people, they can't hardly tell the difference between a pine and a sweet gum. Well, we learned all that.
Jesse and Penny make an unusual couple. She is an artist and taught art for 20 years, eventually teaching gifted 3rd graders. Needless to say, Jesse is a numbers man, far more analytical. On the other hand, they approach the foundational side of their personal and work lives literally hand in hand. That has allowed them to make solid decisions where their tree farm is concerned. And they were smart enough to brainstorm with some experts along the way. One of them said Jesse was so knowledgeable, he could be a consulting forester himself. If you were to visit the farm, chances are Jesse and Penny would give you the royal treatment.
They would eagerly give them a tour and start educating them, because Jesse is a wealth of information. He can show you exactly what he did right or wrong, and it's like a showcase out here. Tell them, get a forestry consultant. Come to the Rankin County, your county, whichever county you live in, county association, forestry association meetings. You become educated, they feed you. You'll talk to other landowners just like yourself. They can ask questions, and it's just get them pointed in the right direction.
Jesse and I worked together for years and years, since in the early 90s, and he's been such a great influence on my career. I learned a lot from him, and because he's an appraiser, he knows a lot about forestry, that as a forester, I really wasn't that strong in those areas. So he changed how I thought about forestry and the investment of forestry.
Jesse's done a lot of work on the farm. This part of the property was pretty rough in the late 90s. Jesse and company harvested enough timber from it to pay for a dozer operator to come in and shape things up. Between that, a QVM spraying after a thinning, and a controlled burn after that, it's an entirely different piece of land now. Here, at a low water crossing, Jesse built up under it with concrete pads from the old chicken farm that used to be here. He also brought in a sturdy cattle gap, sturdy enough that heavy equipment can drive over it. The result? Far fewer clogs.
Do you think we'll see the alligator today?
I don't know. I hadn't seen her the last week or two, but you know.
And speaking of water, Jesse's careful to preserve ponds on the farm. One of them is home to wildlife you might expect further south. An alligator that shows up from time to time. And here, one of 3 creeks that eventually lead to the city of Jackson's water supply runs near the farm's cabin and is watched carefully. Another pond out front is one of the farm's more scenic areas. Overall, the Purvis Tree Farm doesn't have a lot of hills and valleys, but it is home to a mix of trees that will eventually make for a solid harvest. It's a mix that Jesse's especially fond of, compared to what it looked like years ago in the middle of a clear cut.
I thought I would just take and knock it down and plant pines, and when I got to looking, man, what was regenerating was the good prime species of hardwood, so I left it. And now it's getting big enough I can see through it. The deer and the turkeys really like it in there, and it's going to be good going on.
Jesse is a lifelong learner and a relationship builder. He's particularly proud of his relationships with extension agents.
Yeah, I've been involved with the Mississippi State folks for years. And even before that, when I was with Land Bank, it wasn't forestry, but the extension agent in each county, as I moved around with the Land Bank, that's one of my best contacts. If I needed to learn who in various counties, potential customers, existing customers, who other people was that I needed to know or do business with, That was the best source of information I could have. And if I needed to sponsor a meal to do some kind of information meeting, usually the county agent was the cooker. You know, he cooked the meal for me. So I go way back with them.
Bottom line, say Jesse and Penny, the tree farm has been a true gift. They're grateful for its beauty and the way it provides a living. If she has any regrets, says Penny, it's that her father, who passed away before they purchased the farm, never got a chance to see it.
I guess that's the one disappointment about it, is that I wish Daddy could have seen it. He would have been so proud for us, so pleased for us, and he would have loved coming here.
What a fabulous couple. Congratulations to Jesse and Penny Purvis. Well, next time on Farm Week, we announce the 2023 Loggers of the Year. They bring to life one of the top industries in Mississippi. Truly a family business. Last year, in fact, they harvested nearly 1 million tons of timber.
There's more to this story, though, including the life-threatening challenges this family faced along the way.
Join us for an inspiring feature, Mississippi's newest logging heroes, next time on Farm Week.
Remember, if you missed a story, look for past episodes of Farm Week on our website at farmweek.tv.
And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and YouTube. See you next week. Thanks for watching.